So in this video, what we're going to do is quickly look at 3 different ways that you can affect the way that a font is presented. The first of these is font style. So with this, you can say font style italic as an example, and all the paragraphs are italicized. Yay. Now, there's one other value for font style, and that's oblique. You can have italic or oblique, and ostensibly these are different. If you look at this, the text here, this is a specific italic font face that's created for this particular font. And if we set this to oblique, then there should be a difference. But there isn't in this browser. Like I say, ostensibly there should be a difference. An oblique font is really just the regular font that's been slanted. An italic font has its own face. The letter forms are specifically drawn for the purposes of being displayed in italics. As it turns out, browsers, at least as of this recording, treat the two as being equivalent. The oblique is italic and vice versa. And it might be that 1 or 2 browsers at least try to draw a distinction between the two, but when you get right down to it, basically, browsers just don't draw a distinction. Italic is oblique and vice versa. So almost nobody ever uses oblique as a value. They use italic or they don't. Now, there's the default value for font style, which is normal, and that's non-italicized, non-oblique text, basically. So pretty much anytime you see a font style, it's going to have an italic at this point. Now, there's another way to affect fonts, and that's by changing the weight, so we can make their weight bold. So now we have bold-faced and italicized text. And bold-facing involves different faces than either italics or normal. Dig into the guts of a font package on a computer, you're going to find like a normal italic font face and a bold font face and a bold italic font face, and there might be several more besides. But that's how fonts are typically set up. Now, you could say instead of bold, you could say bolder, as in this should be more bold than its parent element should be. But that honestly doesn't have much effect in current browsers. It's also technically possible to give font weight a series of numeric values from 100 to 900 in increments of 100, and that would theoretically let the browser pick between any one of 9 different weights. So you could have a really light font at the 100 and a really heavy font at 900, and browsers just basically don't support that, and the fonts that are available don't have the faces to support that anyway. So pretty much if you see font weight, it's either going to be bold or normal, which is the default value. And then finally, there's a somewhat interesting little font effector called font variant. The default value for font variant is normal, just like the others. And it has only one other value, and that's small caps. And if we were to say, for our heading levels 1 through 4, H1, H2, H3, H4, font variant small caps, this is the result. You notice how the headings have changed to use small caps or small capitals. What that really means is that capital letters are used throughout, but what would normally be lowercase letters have smaller capitals, and what would normally be uppercase letters just have normal capital letters. That's really all there is to font variant. In this case, because there are really only 2 values, normal or small caps, the only time you would ever use font variant is if you want an element to have small caps. Now, where this gets interesting is if we were to try to apply that to the paragraphs as well. Now, it turns out that the particular font we're using actually does have the ability to have a bold italic small caps font, because small caps is yet another font face, and a small cap, bold italic, and so on and so forth. These are all individual faces within the font. And so we have this ability. Not every font is going to let you combine these, and it's difficult to predict ahead of time which fonts will permit you to combine these and which ones won't. There are literally some fonts that if you try to boldface and italicize, they will not let you. They're rare, but they do exist. We're going to talk more about font faces and how fonts work in a later video in this chapter. So you can italicize, you can boldface, you can small cap. Sometimes, perhaps even often, you can combine them, but you may on occasion run into a case where you try to combine, let's say, italicizing and small caps, and something goes wrong. And what you have to keep in mind is that it may not be your fault. It may simply be whatever font face you're working with. But when it comes to the common font faces, this is not generally a problem. And we'll see, as I say, in a later video, how characters are assigned given font faces and what the implications can be.